Welcome to Risør. The story of this beautiful coastal town starts someplace in the middle of the 16th century. At that time, the town's center was nothing more than a desolate muddy bay, only populated by a handful of fishermen. Then Dutch merchantmen started putting into the small coastal settlements of southern Norway to trade timber for their building of their ships and houses. In return, the Dutch supplied the inhabitants with all kinds of merchandise. They found that Risør was a good place to trade. It is a good harbor with protection from the islands outside, little tidal variation, and a good supply of timber from the fjords on both sides of Risør. So the trade grew, and Risør grew with it. As the years and decades goes by, the inhabitants learned to go into the shipping business and build ships for themselves. At the end of the 19th century, Risør was Norway's fourth largest seaport. With a fleet of 93 ships and close to 1,000 crew members registered in the Risør district. The ships brought with them their own style of living, a style which, at least when viewed from this distance in time, possessed a charm of its own. A busy port, flourishing trade, full employment for the many shipyards, continuous loading and unloading, and a harbor crammed with sailing ships were a principal feature of the Risør scene. Risør was at his peak. But by the middle of the 19th century, steamships was growing in number. For Risør, the transition to steam was difficult. It was not easy to break away from the proud traditions of sail, and to reorganize the entire economic structure of a town as a consequence of mechanization of the shipping industry. As a result, there were still quite a lot of sailing ships based on Risør until well into the 20th century. But it was clear to everyone that an era was at its end, and that a large part of the stories, art, craft and traditions from the days of sail would be lost if nothing was done about it. Then, in the 18th of March 1936, a group of men founded the Risør Sailing Ship Club, and the members was the old sailors themselves. The general idea was to try to preserve for future generations as much as possible of the stories, culture, and craft from the days of sail, while there still was people with first-hand experience on the subject. The Risør Sailing Ship Club still exists, with its collection of ship models, navigation gear, souvenirs from foreign shores, and more than 400 pictures and paintings of ships and their crew. The town itself is also interesting. If you take a stroll in its romantic atmosphere, you will find that it has retained much of its 19th century character. The impressive buildings of the rich merchantmen and ship owners of the 1860s is still standing, likewise some of the storehouses, today tastefully restored into shops, banks and restaurants. Other relics are to be found scattered round the town. Like for example the Risør spot, a 17th century landmark painted directly on the hill above the town. It is visible for 12 nautical miles and still in use by local fishermen and seafarers. You will also find ships' anchors, mooring rings and old cannons. Some of them was used on the ships for protection against pirates on high seas. Others were used for the town's protection, like those on Castellet, a renowned 19th century fortification. The area around is also one of the oldest parts of the town. This was the workers' area. As you will see, most of the houses are small, and was populated mainly by sailors and fishermen. Altogether today, Risør is one of the best preserved 19th century town of wood and houses in Europe, and you are always welcome in town. Thank you for listening.